Good morning and welcome to 2021, A Transfer Odyssey. My name is Ross Hawkins and I am the Director of the Academic Advising and Transfer Center at Missouri State University in Springfield. I have the pleasure of being the moderator for this presentation by my colleagues at Northwest Missouri State University. Before we get started, some virtual conference etiquette reminders. All participants should stay muted to eliminate background noise. We want to see your faces. If you have a camera, turn it on to better engage with us. All presentations will be live, so please bear with us on any technical issues. The chat will be monitored for questions throughout the presentation, so please be engaged with the chat feature. If you enter a session and decide it's not for you, please close out and head to a different session, just like you would at the in-person conference. All sessions will be recorded, so you will be able to access them after the conference. And finally, don't forget to engage with us on social media using hashtag CODA2021 and @MoDude. And now I have the pleasure of introducing the session presenters, Dr. Jay Johnson and Michael McVinua. Dr. Jay Johnson is the Associate Provost for Academic Operations and Development at Northwest Missouri State University, with oversight of a variety of university functions that include dual credit, Northwest Campus in Kansas City, Missouri, the University Registrar, Career Services, Continuing Education, the Small Business Development Center, and TRIO. Prior to serving Northwest, Dr. Johnson was a Dean of Business and an Associate Provost of Business. Dr. Johnson holds an EDD in Education Leadership from the University of Missouri-Columbia, an MBA from William Woods University, and a BA in Marketing from Truman State University. Michael McVinua is the Academic Success Coach at Northwest Missouri State University, Kansas City. He has been with the Kansas City office for the past 3.5 years, previously as the Coordinator of Marketing and Recruitment. Michael earned both his master's and bachelor's degree from Northwest. So I will turn it over now to Dr. Johnson and Michael.
Yes, thank you, Russ, and good morning, everyone. As I said, I am Michael McVinua, and a quick overview of what we're going to talk to you about here this morning. Obviously, an overview of Northwest, statewide initiatives that are currently in place. How do we address the non-traditional needs within our region, especially somewhat focused here on our Kansas City region, more the west side of the state? How does what we do address statewide workforce initiatives, and where are we now? So Northwest was founded way back in 1905 as a normal school at the time. Back then, Northwest really focused on or started as a school to create teachers to then go out into the field to teach your students, to then go to college, to come to Northwest to become teachers, and so on and so forth. Since then, we've really had a great passion and a great school to grow off of that. Still very largely focused on creating educators anywhere from early childhood to that master's level, and then our current partnership with University of Missouri with the doctorate program as well. So it's still something that we really focus on, but obviously since then we have expanded to well over 120 different degrees in all sorts of different areas within the workforce, what have you. Maryville itself is a town of about 12,000 people. I used to be one of them a long time ago. We are a moderately selective school, and our mission statement focuses on student success, every student, every day. This is a statement that I personally wholeheartedly believe, and one that I think that almost any person here can probably agree to as well, that it is our duty to serve every student to the best of our ability to help them reach their goal, whatever it may be, whether it's, going on to get, we'll start at, a 2-year degree to a 4-year degree to whatever there is. How can we best serve those students? Our current enrollment at Northwest is a little over 7,000. So as you see, whenever school is in session, Maryville almost doubles in size. So it is a true college town, something that we'll talk about here on this next slide, or excuse me, 2 slides from now. So Northwest right now does offer the ability to receive an education from 3 different distinct locations. Of course, we do kind of intertwine here and there. Of course, our main campus, our flagship up in Maryville, Missouri, the northeast, or excuse me, the northwest, wow, section of the state. Here where I'm at in Kansas City, we are located in Gladstone. For those of you not familiar with the area, we're about 15 minutes straight north of downtown. And then, of course, online for those that maybe aren't necessarily able to make it to Maryville or Kansas City, or just don't want to go to Maryville or Kansas City for whatever reason. Maryville, of course, has been there, for well over 100 years. Kansas City and online have been around in some fashion for the past 20 years. And here over these last 3 years, our Kansas City location has found a nice true home. Obviously here in Gladstone, you'll see a picture of our building, both on this slide and in the background of both Dr. Johnson and my little WebEx bubble. And we're really happy to call this place home. As for online, again, been around for about 20 years, but as for the last 3 years, we have seen exponential growth after partnering with a third-party program management resource. So our main campus in Maryville has historically focused on that quote-unquote traditional student. Students coming right out of high school, ready to get that on-campus experience, living in the dorms, what have you. No fault of our own. I was one of those traditional students, and I surely enjoyed my time at Northwest. Had a great time, loved it so much. Decided to get a master's there, and decided to get a job there as well. So it's something that we've done very well there. We have excellent athletic programs, football and basketball, going to national championships and winning them multiple times over. Our campus in Maryville is an accredited arboretum. I encourage you to come visit someday, especially maybe not today with the temperature and the trees are not in bloom, but something quite beautiful to truly see. Historically, our transfer student population has been low, however, with the main focus being on that quote unquote traditional Associates of Arts to the Bachelor's of Science degree. We do have graduate programs available both on campus and online, again, kind of growing with that third-party ability. And our student job placement is typically over 95%.
So consistent with this purpose of the entire conference, we wanted to kind of demonstrate what we're doing to improve our transfer population, as well as how those are aligning with some of these statewide initiatives. So I wanted to first go into some of these statewide initiatives. First, I'm sure we're all aware of Fast Track. The Fast Track program is basically a financial aid program that the state is putting out there that allows adults to come back to college and get some aid if they're going into a program that is recognized by the state as a workforce need. Second, we'll kind of align our work with is Guided Pathways. Now, Guided Pathways is certainly more of what I've heard more about it has been more in the traditional sense, as in how are we getting students from high school into college or whatever. But, perhaps there's also the conversations around the state about how it works from transfer initiatives. Well, that's certainly what we're going to be looking at here with Guided Pathways. How are we going to provide a clear curricular path to a degree? And then third on this slide is the concurrent enrollment. Basically, this allows any person that is eligible for enrollment at 2 different institutions at one time to enroll at 2 different institutions at one time. So we'll talk about how we're doing this as well. So how do we address at Northwest Missouri State University the non-traditional student needs of our region? Well, as consistent with the title of this presentation, we are really focusing on the BAS program. And please forgive, there's some vacuuming going on in the background if you hear someone cleaning. Just know that I have a clean house and a very cold room. So, the Bachelor of Applied Science is a degree that's been with Northwest for a number of years, but it didn't become the Bachelor of Applied Science until about 2017. Historically, It was seen as a more terminal degree called the Bachelor's in Technology. So it was designed for the students not getting an AA degree to transfer to Northwest, but then they would pretty well be done. That was the focus point. But we see that that's not what the market wants. And we also know that, you know, based on what we see in the market, that there is a need for someone, there is a market for people wanting to continue to get their bachelor's degree. So we changed this in 2017. I've been with the institution since 2018, so I can't take the credit for that change. Second here is designed to meet the needs of students not selecting the traditional transfer degree pathway. As Michael mentioned in a previous slide, our traditional transfer population at Northwest has been that student who finished their AA degree and went on to get a BS degree at Northwest. That's a very common thing to do, and we really need to focus on how we make an experience for those students really, really good. But that's cutting out an entire market of students who are trying to enter the workforce quickly or really want to focus on some skill-based education at a community college or whatever other entity may be granting an AAS. So this BAS program allows students to complete their degree with attention to on-time completion or the 120 credit hours. So we're trying to get students done in 120 credit hours. We do not want them to have to take an extra semester's worth of classes, which cost them time and money. That's the goal. We're providing opportunities for students to take a selection of courses with a given emphasis area. And I want to go back to that previous bullet. That doesn't mean that when they're transferring in, it's always going to fit perfectly or never going to fit perfectly. It just means that was the focus of this degree, the BAS. So that emphasis area, Michael's going to talk about the emphasis area here in a little bit. In this BAS program, it is going to be a little bit different in that we are requiring 33 general education credits instead of the traditional 42. So this is a way we can really make sure that we're focusing on skills. Now they're still getting good, broad, critical thinking abilities in their general education core, but it's not the number of general education credits that they would normally have to take, which is usually what costs the students the extra time and money to complete at a 4-year university. And this also is an effort for us to advance our Northwest Kansas City location and our online initiative. So because we realize that not everybody's going to want to come up to Maryville, given the picture that Michael painted of Maryville earlier, it is very rural. So the people in Kansas City who are working in Kansas City are not going to want to drive 90 miles to go to class. And so they can take it in Kansas City, or they can take it online, or even if they're from somewhere else in some other part of the state, they can take it with us online. So who is eligible for this program? First, community college students completing their AAS or AAS or their AS degrees. Community college students completing a 1 or 2 year certificate. We also just put in that students that are completing some sort of military credit can transfer into Northwest. And we're also looking at how we can work more with some of the area vocational technical schools, as long as they're accredited, and how we can possibly bring that in as credit. Because what we're learning, and what most of you know, I'm sure, is that community colleges are articulating that credit from technical schools. So in essence, why can't we do that? So we want to be able to put that service together for those students, and then they can come and complete a degree with us as well. Doesn't mean that they shouldn't go to a community college. It just means that we want to provide that option for them. So how does this work? The AAS and the AS students will come in, and they will have to take 24 hours of the emphasis, which is what Michael will talk about in a little bit here, 33 general education credit hours, and a 3-hour institutional requirement, which oftentimes is covered in their transfer, and then fill whatever balance is left to the 120 with elective credit. So in essence, they're going to have to take those 24 hours of emphasis credit. That is the key difference here as we go down the list. If they're 1 or 2 year certificate completers, then they will need to take 39 emphasis credit hours. And the rest is the same as what they're going to do for the AAS or the AS degree. But those 39 hours are basically, it's a 15-hour difference, and they'll have to take those. Now, if they have over 60 hours in their 1 or 2 year certificate, we'll have to take a look at it and see what actually the credits kind of come down to. But what we found is oftentimes a 2 year certificate is in the 40s range. It's not necessarily a full 60-hour credit, but that's not the rule. That's just what we normally see. Military credit. If you have 59 or fewer hours in military credit, you come in like a 1 or 2 year certificate student, and you take those 39 emphasis hours. If it's 60 or more, then you can come in like an AAS or AS student. So, and then the fourth thing on this list is a technical school. These just simply depend on the arrangement. Not all technical schools are created equally. Some are putting out IRCs, some are not, and some are putting out curriculum that is like college ready, and some are not. So we really just have to focus on what it is. The key piece to that agreement is that they are accredited. There are other technical schools that are starting up, especially in the Kansas City area, that do not have the accreditation. We cannot do this arrangement with them until they are accredited. And from there, we still have to take a look and see what it is they can provide that makes sense to articulate to us. So Michael will now go over the emphasis areas.
Yes, Jay. As you can see, there's obviously 12 different options listed on here, and I'll go more into that 12th option, the other, here in just a bit. But currently for the BAS, we do have 11 emphasis areas that are a little bit more well established in that sense. Great part about these 11 is that most of them do hit on key areas where workforce is greatly needed in that sense, where they're looking for those degrees in those areas, such as your management, marketing, anything with information technology, child family studies, those sort of areas, especially here in our larger cities such as Kansas City, St. Louis. Those areas are definitely growing quickly, and they're needing those people. The 12th option there is sort of the fun one. Our other, in a sense, is more or less a make your own emphasis, to put it lightly. Really what it is, it's for a student that maybe, wants to focus on something that is not one of these established 11. Then we work with an individual department. How can we put together, 30 odd credit hours, 24 credit hours, excuse me, of an emphasis area that would, of course, meet the needs of the student, but then potentially set them up for best success, whatever their goal afterward may be, whether it's straight into the workforce or even looking at a master's program. The biggest thing here is going to be communication with the student, understanding what they're wanting, where they're wanting to go, and so on. One example I like to use that the BAS may not necessarily be best for would be a student looking for something in terms of teaching, such as K-12. With state and Northwest regulations and whatnot, there's a little bit more that they need to meet in terms of those that the BAS can't necessarily achieve. But beyond, those more not necessarily rigorous programs, but ones with more criteria that an individual student needs to meet, this is a great option for other students as well. As for where a student can work towards their BAS, again, any location that Northwest has. Maryville, of course, as our flagship, holding the 120 odd degrees that Northwest offers, has a lot more offerings of potential emphasis areas. Agriculture, something in education, the sciences, what have you. Kansas City and online are a little bit more limited at this time, just based off of the individual degree programs that we do currently offer. What is nice, though, however, is Kansas City and online, for the most part, currently offer those courses that would, again, meet what the workforce is really looking for right now. Those in management, those in technology, excuse me, those in healthcare as well.
So how are we addressing these statewide initiatives? First of all, the BAS is eligible in the Missouri Fast Track program. So if you go to that page, you look up Northwest Missouri State, you see the programs there, you'll see the BAS there. So this is an eligible program. We wanted to make sure it was eligible because we see this as an opportunity for someone who perhaps has been in the workforce, has some college credit, or has an AAS or whatever, and they never thought about finishing, but they need that bachelor's degree to move into some sort of a management role or start a management track, and perhaps they need to go on and get a master's degree in something somewhere, perhaps with Northwest, perhaps with one of the other wonderful schools here in our region. this will allow them to do that. So, or at least create a pathway for them to consider it. Second, Northwest is eligible, probably like some of you at the four-year schools, are eligible to accept up to 90 credit hours of transfer credit. So we're looking at how we develop these strategic alliances with community colleges to allow maximum transferability. So this will give students a minimal, they can spend the least amount possible to get a bachelor's degree with Northwest and whatever community college partner we're talking about, and still complete on time. A lot of those students that are coming in, if they're going to come in with 90 hours, which, whatever. I mean, most models historically in four-year higher ed is, hey, how many credit hours can we sell you? What we're looking at is how can we get you a degree? And so this is an opportunity for someone to come in and take 30 hours with Northwest, and they're bringing in 90 hours from somewhere else that are hitting the degree requirements and graduation requirements. Graduation requirements such as they have a certain number of 300, 400 level credits, a certain number of emphasis areas, that type of thing, or emphasis credits, that type of thing. So we were looking at how we can do that with attention to efficiency for these students, and certainly to cost them less money. The third piece here was the concurrent enrollment program. Well, we have a concurrent enrollment partnership here, in Kansas City with Metropolitan Community College. We have the program that we have basically allows students to take up to 18 credit hours with Northwest while they're still enrolled at Metropolitan. We did 18 credit hours because that's our policy for visiting students. And so when they come in as a visiting student while they're enrolled at Metropolitan Community College, they will pay the Metropolitan Community College rate plus $5 or something small, as their tuition to us to take those credits while they're enrolled at Metropolitan. This requires a fair amount of coordination between our advisors and their advisors to make sure that we're providing the most cohesive, seamless experience for them to complete their degree at Metropolitan while also then matriculating to Northwest. This partnership has been around for a few years, and we're still working through a lot of the kinks in this thing, because as you can imagine, it's very difficult to do concurrent enrollment. We did not want to actually fully enroll them as regular students at Northwest, because then they would lose any financial aid eligibility at Metropolitan. So we had to work through all those kinks, and we have a system now in place, and we feel like this could be a really good opportunity for the students who are taking advantage of it and students to come. So where are we now? As I kind of alluded to, we are really just starting with this whole venture. So we're just starting to see enrollments. The Fast Tracks program has been around a few years. We have modest enrollment in that, but we really think that we're going to start seeing more enrollments in the BAS program, especially in our Kansas City and online locations. The online market, as you all are aware, is kind of a vast what are you going to do with it type market. So we believe that this is an opportunity, especially to the region in Missouri. The concurrent enrollment is lowering the cost and time to degree, as I said. So this is actually, now we can say, here's some results. We're seeing that this is lowering the cost. The new transfer agreement we just signed with Metropolitan Community College. If any of you from Metropolitan Community College are in here, hey, you have a transfer agreement with us for the BAS. Hopefully you knew that, maybe you didn't, but now you do. So we have that transfer agreement basically is between the MCC and Northwest. It allows for the AAS to move into the BAS seamlessly, and has little stipulations of how we work on that. This partnership came into play last summer in a very safe, socially distanced signing ceremony at our Kansas City location, where we had Dr. Beatty and Dr. Zinski in there to do the signing, and had the whole pictures and all that wonderful stuff. But we actually have that partnership going right now, and we think we're going to see some really good things from that. We're also looking at more partnerships in the area with technical schools. We're working on one right now that could allow students to feed into us with more efficiency. A lot of these students at the technical school I'm working with now are already going to Northwest when they complete their degree. This would allow them to go to Northwest in a more efficient, more cost-saving way. So we're certainly interested in doing that. And we think that BAS, in particular, the agriculture BAS, could be a big draw for them. Now, I know this is a Missouri conference, and there are speakers here that are from other states. We are exploring partnerships with Kansas, Iowa, and Nebraska. As you are aware, or may be aware, Northwest Missouri State is not just a clever name. It's in the very far northwest part of the state. And so we are very close to Kansas, very close to Iowa, and very close to Nebraska. So we're exploring certain schools in the Kansas area, and Kansas and Iowa, and we're just starting to look in Nebraska, and we're trying to figure out how can we go into those markets and provide a valuable product and do it at a rate that makes sense for those students. And then we're looking at the BAS with all options now is available online. This just got approved in fall of 2020. The BAS for Kansas City was approved by the state to be offered there in the spring of 2019. So we are able to put this anywhere we are. Now, Northwest, as some of you in the 4 years are aware, everybody's come to the statewide mission at their regional institution. So we have a new statewide mission, and part of that focus is profession-based learning, which ties into why we're doing the BAS program, because it is a workforce-focused program to skill up people. But with this being our new statewide mission, we really need to make sure that we're living up to that. So that's a nuance that has come out in the last 6 months that we are really excited about. And finally, we're just focusing on new and additional pipelines for student careers and continued education with this. We are growing our continuing education arm in non-credit, for credit, and we're looking at how we can bring in non-credit or other opportunities into this program. So we'll see what happens with that, but my goal is how creative can we legally be? So, Michael?
Yeah, just to kind of wrap up real quick, obviously I wish we had more time to truly go in depth into some examples, and also had the ability under FERPA to also go even more detailed to some of these examples with students that we currently have. Obviously our sample size is small. Transfer students, I mean, as a whole, at any of our institutions, it is a small percentage of our students, and then to go even smaller, the AS, what have you, to ABAS is going to be even smaller percentage of that. So currently, yes, our sample size is small, but it is something that we're going to see that's definitely growing quickly. But with that, even with that smaller group of students, you have an excellent population of students that are going part-time, full-time, paying out of pocket, getting financial aid, some that are coming the minute they finish that associate's degree and are taking 60 credit hours with us, some that have played the system perfectly and are coming to us for that last 30 credit hours. And then you have those that are even concurrently enrolled, as Jay mentioned, some with our own program with MCC, some that are utilizing the MRT, Missouri Reverse Transfer, taking a few courses here, sending them back to then confer a degree. So there's so many different options out there for these students. Obviously, earlier I said a big thing is communication with the students. Yes, that is big. The other part of that is going to be education, and that's both internally and externally. Internally, even myself, before I truly started down here, Kansas City did not truly understand the BT, now the BAS. How do you get in it? What is it? Even explain to some instructors throughout Northwest, not to mention trying to explain to advisors, instructors, even the students that are outside of Northwest. A Bachelor's of Applied Science is not an applied science degree. It's kind of what you want it to be. There's a lot of things that still kind of, in terms of communication, education, what have you, that needs to be completed to probably make students a little bit more comfortable knowing what they're doing is acceptable and is a true worthwhile degree to kind of move from here. And to kind of quickly speak to Mary's question in terms of the programs of study, those emphasis areas, it's kind of a mixed bag. It's both, it's in a sense a double-edged sword. The uniqueness of this program, yes, there are emphasis areas, but You can't necessarily create a plan that works for every student because you don't know what every individual student is going to bring in. With those emphasis areas, yes, we're looking for 24 credit hours, but there's kind of a pool of 40 odd credit hours that are potentially available that a student can kind of pick from. And obviously, Mary, I can definitely go a little bit more into that question too if you need me to. But with all of that, thank you for listening to us. And I guess any questions?
Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Johnson and Michael. There have been a few questions come into the chat. And again, please, since we only have a couple questions, if any of the attendees have additional questions, enter them in the chat. One question was about the accreditation. And when you mentioned accreditation at the beginning of the session, was it referring to regional accreditation, or is there another type of accreditation?
The accreditation for this, basically, we're looking at just regional. If you look in, like, for example, our BAS program is we are a single A or ACBSP business accredited school. We're not a double ACSB accredited school. The courses that a student will take in the BAS management or marketing area are the same courses that the students getting a BS would take, and they actually would be the courses that would prepare you for an MBA program at an ACBSP school at least. It may be for a double A, but I'm not at a double A school, so I can't speak to that. So there is that piece of it, but it is a fully accredited HLC program. HLC has been notified, just like you would for any program you put together. I do want to also put a shout out there to Kathy Painter, class in Gallatin alum. Gallatin, Missouri. Hi, Kathy.
Okay.
What other questions might you have?
Oh, go ahead, Dr. Johnson. I didn't mean to interrupt.
What other questions might you have? Yeah.
So I think Michael answered Mary's question, and I appreciate you entering the link as well in the chat. So Mary, if you have any follow-up questions, please let us know. How do you limit students who do not qualify for this degree from declaring it or working toward it? Do they have to specifically apply to the program?
When they apply to Northwest, they have an option to take what program they want to take. So it's not as if they have to come in and specifically say, this is what I'm applying to. They're not applying to it's not like they're applying to the business department or applying to anything like that. They're applying to Northwest, and they can take a program, in this case, perhaps a completion program with the BAS. That's the goal of it. So when we recruit for it, if we're putting it, when we put it out there on our website or whatever media we have, we talk about the BAS, and we always direct them to the Northwest website, or we direct them to a counselor or someone to talk about applying to Northwest. So then we talk through what their options are. Maybe they saw that the BAS is an option in the ad or whatever they read on the website, and they will talk to the advisor about that, or talk to the person they're talking to on the phone about that. But the advisor also is charged to see, okay, what is the best option for you? In the partnership we have with Metropolitan, for example, this has been designed to where we work with advisors at Metropolitan to learn, so we can help them direct what might be good for the students to take as they come, if they want to come to Northwest and do the BAS program. This is a way for us to assist the student and not taking a bunch of stuff that they either don't need or they don't want to take. What we're hearing is that some students at community colleges, not just Metropolitan, they may want to do an AAS degree because they're more interested in taking the skill set than they are taking the AA, which is a traditional transfer degree with the Core 42. So they choose but they know they want to transfer and get a bachelor's degree, so they choose the AA, and they don't exactly get what they want or what they thought they're going to go to college to get. And that's no slam on the AA at all. I think it's great that we have that opportunity, but not everybody wants that. So this allows for the student body of the community college to look at a different way. And whenever they apply there or they come to us, they're just applying there and they're applying to Northwest. It's not anything specific to that.
And it rolls back a lot again, communication, education, explain to the student what this is. Some of our current BAS students initially applied for a BS in management, excellent degree, obviously. And we say, hey, there's this other option because you did complete an AAS. Do you want to look at it? Something that we do specifically down here for our Kansas City location. Now, this is not a practice I expect every institution to do. It's just very unique for us. Just the way we function down here due to kind of our limited numbers, we build out a program plan for every individual student, what class you're taking, when, until the day you graduate. So whenever a student comes in like that, you build out 2 plans. You say, take a look, what do you think? But it also comes back to, what are you wanting to do afterwards, that sort of thing. For a student that maybe is currently working towards an AA, that starts reaching out to us first. Thank you for reaching out to us before you graduated and started that process. We really appreciate that. But if they're doing that and they're like, what's this BAS option? Again, communicating with them, educating them, letting them know that this is a potential route, but you would need to change that, there on your front end at your current community college to switch to an AAS and AS, and what the positives, negatives of making that switch could be.
The other thing to mention there is do remember that at Northwest we had these 3 locations. I'm calling online a location, but we also have Kansas City and Maryville. And Maryville, as Michael mentioned in that slide, basically a student can go there and they can take pretty well whatever they want. If they want to do the BAS, they can still take pretty well whatever they want. When they go to Kansas City or they go to the online campus, there's going to be a more limited offering of classes that they can take. What most people will tell you in any kind of transfer literature is that a lot of the non-traditional students really they like having choices, but they don't want just an abundance of choices. They would like to have maybe some options, maybe some electives or whatever that they could take, but they're also fine with kind of a directed curriculum. When they're creating relationships with other people, their faculty members, the staff at the centers, their advisor, whatever. Career center is also important there. For the students who are maybe more traditional and maybe they're coming to Northwest to play sports, or they want to still be in band or do something like that, they can explore, they can do a lot of things. So we're not trying to be all things to all people, but really this degree in Maryville is a different experience than it would be in Kansas City.
And for those that maybe do a transfer with an Associates of Arts and are wanting something kind of equivalent-esque to that BAS, we do provide a Bachelor's of Science of General Studies, which again, kind of historically, like the BAS sounds like, what am I going to do with that? It is still, a full-fledged 4-year degree, something that is a whole nother presentation that can't go into too much detail with, but another option for students if they're someone like me that took 150 credit hours at the undergrad level because you didn't know what you wanted to do. This can get them out of the door hopefully a little bit sooner than that.
A lot of people go to college for 7 years and they're called doctors. So.
Yes, and I missed one question scrolling back, looking at the chat. How are you approaching articulation and awarding of technical and or vocational credit?
Yeah, that's a good question. Basically, we're looking at if they are, if they're an accredited, like a national accreditation or even a regional accreditation, that's where we will talk to them because we want to see what that is. Now, I don't want to get into the conversation about what's a good accrediting body because that certainly was an interesting conversation over the last, let's just say the last 4 years. It was an interesting conversation. Not necessarily one I enjoyed. But there are some very good national accrediting bodies out there for technical education. There are also a lot of schools that are opting to do something a little bit different. What we want is we want to be able to demonstrate that the courses are rigorous, or they're going through some sort of periodic review. We also want to take a look and see really kind of what are the competitive pressures there. Are we looking at industry recognized credentials, IRCs? Those IRCs are pretty important because a lot of places are just articulating, a lot of schools, a lot of different states are just articulating IRCs. Even if you want to get into like graduate programs, for example, to kind of use that as a parallel example, they'll take like a FINRA Chapter 7 exam and perhaps articulate that into some graduate credit, or there are a lot of different things being done. So we want to take a look and see what we can do to be creative, but to be fair and to be rigorous. We don't want to just give people a degree. We want to make sure that they're getting good stuff. The other thing to remember is that what they're bringing in is really just a design that's a skill-based design. So when someone graduates from a technical school, they have a skill that they've earned at that school. And then when they come to us, we are just kind of tapping that off and helping them perhaps advance in their careers. That's the goal of it. And I wish I could give a more specific answer to not specific, but general answer of how this works, but it really just depends on the school you're looking at.
Okay, great. Thanks again, Dr. Johnson and Michael, for the insight, and thanks for the great questions in the chat. I also want to thank all who made this day possible. Obviously, there are many people who helped pull off this virtual event, but also I want to thank our participants. Thank you for showing up. I know many of you have snow days, may have children at home with you, and so we really appreciate you still making transfer students a priority in the work that you do. The event that we do every year, this conference, is for you. It's for the participants, it's for the people, and it's for the students that ultimately we are hoping to share this information with and help be even better transfer advocates. Please watch for a survey in the next few days. We are really interested in hearing from you on how we can improve and make this conference even better next year. Do continue to visit the Department of Higher Education Workforce Development website, often for updates, recordings, and materials from today's events, including the updated guiding principles that was discussed earlier in our conference. And thank you again to everyone making this day possible, and let's continue to work together to make the Transfer Odyssey a smooth one for all students. Happy afternoon. Thanks for attending CODA Conference 2021.